All right, 12 o'clock on your Friday afternoon now. Welcome in. It is the halftime show. Tyler Head, Captain Dave, Bill Gunner will be along here in just a moment. There's got a lot of things to get to. We'll put a bow on the early signing period because Carolina's done. I know the signing period's still open today, technically, but nobody else going to be coming in for the 2026 class of Carolina after a really good day yesterday for Carolina with nabbing the last couple guys with Julian Walker and Landon Duckworth, which we'll get into here in just a moment. Obviously, conference championship weekend. Things get rolling tonight. A couple games, including the American, which is essentially a play-in game. North Texas and Tulane, the winner of that, will make their first ever college football playoff appearance with two coaches that are on their way to new jobs. Eric Morris is going to go take the UCLA job. Of course, John Summer already been introduced as Florida head coach, but those guys committed to staying through the potential playoff runs of both their teams. So that's coming up tonight. Obviously, a lot of fun this upcoming weekend with what we have on tap for tomorrow as we set the field for the 12-team college football playoff. Excited for it. I've said it before. I was never like totally pro-expansion. The BCS was fine. The 14 playoff was fine. And when they expanded 12, I was like, yeah, okay, we'll see. Now, I don't love that it's kind of devalued conference championships in a way to where there's not this urgency and importance. Because, look, Ohio State and Indiana, they're both getting in, and they very well could both be. In fact, I think they will both be top 4 seeds, no win or lose tomorrow. And Georgia and Alabama both getting in, and I think the committee set themselves up perfectly by moving Alabama over Miami in the standings the other night to make sure there's no debate that even if Alabama loses tomorrow, they're still in, because the committee's talked about not penalizing teams for playing the extra game and all that stuff. So it does take a little bit of the fun out of it because, man, even with the 4-team era, the SEC championship was always essentially a playing game. Like, it acted as a de facto quarterfinal where if you lost, you were out, and if you won, you were in. Now, there was the one exception where Georgia and Alabama both still made it in 2021 and rematched for the SEC or the national championship a month later, but that was the one time. More often than not, it was playing game, as most all of these had ended up being. So there's a little something to be said about that. We'll get into that debate a little bit later about what exactly is the value of conference championships in 2025 and beyond, because I think we're all pretty certain that this thing's going to expand next year. Greg Sankey was on the SEC Network this morning. They're live out at the World Congress Center in Atlanta getting set for the championship game tomorrow and talking about the expansion of the playoff, and they've got their deadline moved up to the middle of January now and all that. And I think we all assume it's going to go to 16. And, is that 16 where you still do the committee thing? Is that 16 with auto bids? What's it going to look like? I don't know, but I'd be willing to bet a large sum of money that next year, at this point in time, we're talking about a 16-team playoff getting set to start as opposed to a 12-team, because that's just kind of the nature and direction that college football is heading. If you were listening at the end of the last hour, you heard Chris Clark and I briefly as the show was going off talking about, like, Matt Campbell is in position maybe to be Penn State's next head coach, but as this coaching saga unfolds, another twist, as now there's leaked audio of athletic director Pat Kraft trashing other teams in the Big Ten when talking about Penn State's positioning in something that's very profanity-laced, which I can't play for you right here on the radio because there's rules against that. Thanks, FCC. But I listened to it. Chris sent it to me in the break. I hadn't heard it yet, and wow, that's all I got to say. I don't know if that affects this coaching search, and if that makes him like Matt Campbell say, I don't want to coach for that guy or go to Penn State now or whatever. But wow, what a disaster of a coaching search this has been for Penn State, as they have not gotten seemingly any of their top 10 options at this point, and we'll see how that continues to unfold. So we'll get into all that as the show rolls along. We'll get into more of the coaches now taking jobs too, as Billy Napier didn't have to wait long. He's got a new gig. A former Kansas State quarterback is returning home to take over for the retiring Chris Kleiman, and we're slowly filling out all these musical chairs that have been left open with this wide open coaching carousel. Still waiting to see, of course, if South Carolina or who South Carolina is going to get as the offensive coordinator, as well as running backs coach, maybe offensive line coach. A lot of holes to fill on that coaching staff, obviously, and my goodness, I'll keep refreshing Twitter as the day goes along because there's no telling. We don't have a timetable, right? We don't know when it's going to happen. I would have been willing to bet a week ago that we would have had it done by now, but it hasn't been. There are names out there that are thought to be at the top of the list for Coach Beamer as far as the candidate pool goes, and we'll see how that ends up materializing as we go into this weekend and go into the second week of the offseason for South Carolina, coming up next week, and hopefully we get some answers on that really, really soon. But for everything else going on with the program, for what happened last week, where you lose to your in-state rival, Clemson, you dropped 4-8 on the year, you missed a bowl game, all those kind of things. Like, the negativity was at an all-time high on Monday, rightfully so. And look, we don't like being negative on here, but when you have a team that had a season like Carolina did, it's hard not to be, right? And we broke down the game, what went wrong. We assessed what the season was and how close you were in some of those games and what needs to be fixed. Obviously, you've got staff changes now and all those kind of things. You needed something to make you feel good, right? You needed something to give you a reason to smile about Carolina football because you haven't had that a whole lot this year. And thankfully, the early signing period was able to do that, right? Now you didn't pull in the number one class in the nation. You didn't pull in 7 5-stars. But considering what was possible this week, I think Carolina did a pretty darn good job when it came to their signing class, including yesterday going almost as perfectly as it could have gone. Now, yeah, we went into yesterday morning knowing that Carson Baker probably wasn't going to come to Carolina, and Beamer even said as much on Wednesday at his presser, like, hey, we're not anticipating signing any running backs, which probably had a lot to do with why Markel Blackwell was moved on from as the running backs coach yesterday morning, because that's 2 straight cycles where you've not signed a single running back out of the high school ranks. So, yeah, Carson Baker wasn't really a likely possibility. But you went into yesterday knowing you had the possibility of flipping Julian Walker from Michigan and hopefully signing Landon Duckworth and him not flipping to LSU. And both those things happened. So, big win on that front. You obviously you had a good overall class. Again, the sheer numbers aren't insane compared to like what Southern Cal and Ohio State, Notre Dame, Georgia, Alabama, all those teams did from like a pure volume standpoint. But the quality was, in fact, pretty good. In fact, calling this on the fly here, Dave, so apologies. Let's actually go back to the stuff that Beamer talked about the other day. I can't find it here. If you go back to yesterday's list, the one about quality over quantity, I don't have the numbers in front of me right now. I apologize. Just let me know when you see it. In terms of what this class needs. Do you have it? Do you see it? All right, so here's what Beamer said the other day about quality over quantity when it came to the 2026 recruiting class.
Everybody looks at signing classes and the number of guys that you sign. This is not a huge class, but if you talk about quality over quantity, we absolutely hit the mark on that. Everybody's got their different rankings, but I think I said this Saturday after the game in regards to average star rating. This is a top 10 class in the nation, and we're not done yet. As we finish up, these guys are big-time people. As I said, we had certainly a tough year on the field, but most games when I came in the locker room or I got done in the press conference with you guys after the game, usually when I pulled out my phone, the first text messages I had after the game were from these guys because they believe in what we're doing. Their families, I usually would hear from their moms and dads as well, and they believe in what we're doing and they know how close we are and they want to be a part of this without a doubt. So, 9 of these guys will be here with us in January when we start spring practice. Could be, could be more as we go down the list, but that's the ones that we're able to talk about right now.
And look, I try not to get too jazzed up when it comes to recruiting and signing classes and all that kind of stuff, because the law of averages in football tell you that not all these guys are going to, end up being high-level contributors, and some of the guys that you think are going to be superstars end up being duds, and some of the guys that you don't really think about that come in as 3 stars end up being great players. So it's such a hard thing to nail down. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you because of what South Carolina signed on Wednesday, yeah, they're definitely back. They're going to go out there and go 10-2 next year and make the playoff and the SEC championship game and all those kind of things. You'd love for that to be the case, but I can't sit here and guarantee you that. But for what this week set up to be, it went pretty well, right? And you can at least feel good about that in the moment. And I saw the sentiment a lot on social media, message boards, and all that kind of stuff because, again, the negativity was so high at the beginning of the week. Coming off the loss, a close loss to your rival, coming off of a disappointing season, a failure of a season at that I see so many people like yesterday after Walker and Duckworth and those guys officially signed with Carolina and the class ended up being top 15 at the end of the day in overall industry recruiting rankings. People like, dang it, he pulled me back in. I want to be negative, but Beamer pulled me back in. Now, again, just signing a good class does not guarantee success. There's a lot more things this offseason that have to go right, a lot more hires you have to nail, not just nail. You have to hire a good offensive coordinator. You have to hire the right running backs coach. Maybe an offensive line coach, depending on what you want to do with Sean Elliott and all that kind of stuff. Regardless, whoever you hire, it's got to be the best you've ever had at those specific positions because, quite frankly, Beamer's job depends on it. But for the moment of just focusing on recruiting, this week went pretty well. Again, the overall recruiting rankings ended up being 15th. You had a little bit of a bump with Julian Walker flipping because Duckworth was still a commitment, even though he was flirting with LSU. So him signing yesterday didn't change things, but flipping Julian Walker did, got you in the top 15, which is good. And I think we talked about this yesterday. Because Carolina's class wasn't massive, again, with the 20s and 30s like some of these other guys did, that does hurt you in the overall rankings, but your average rating, as in what they kind of compile based on the talent and the way they're scored, was top 10. It came in 9th. So smaller class, but a quality class that hopefully translates to all this moving back in the right direction for the rest of this offseason, going 2026 and beyond. Now, again, we got 9 months until we see this team take the field next year, and a lot of questions to be answered between now and then, but for what the early signing period is, it's okay to feel good about what Coach Beamer in South Carolina did. And again, we'll get to all the other stuff as that comes and goes in the offseason, but tip of the cap for a solid signing class for Shane Beamer and company. We'll continue this conversation as well as look at everything else happening this weekend as the halftime show rolls along. Tyler Head, Bill Gunner, Captain Dave on your Friday on the Game.
It is 12:18 on a glorious Friday, one of those beautiful Scottish Fridays I've read about in magazines.
You know, I feel bad for the kids playing state championships, which are starting right now, by the way.
Yeah.
This is kind of going to be persistent throughout the next 2 days, which is unfortunate.
I saw that there was discussion of potentially trying to move it or work around it, but that there wasn't really a workaround. And we'll catch up with Chris Deering in roughly an hour and to get his take on that. But you're all right. High school state championship starting right about now down in Orangeburg, and not going to be conducive. Rain I can deal with, cold I can deal with. Rain and cold at the same time.
Yeah, I hope you can run the ball because passing might be a little more at a premium.
Yeah, it's going to be it's going to be nasty. So if you're heading down there this afternoon, stay bundled up, try and stay dry as best you can, and good luck to the administrators, the parents, the band, the cheerleaders, and of course the players and coaches as they get ready for state championship weekend. And of course, one of those guys that will get ready for it is Jillian Walker with Dutch Fork rematch with Somerville. So. Do we know is Preston Thorne going to be on the sideline like a former player?
I don't know that. He did not seem, because Dutch Fork has never lost to Somerville. He did not seem overly confident in breaking
he's not
that
an overly confident guy.
So I imagine he'll probably try and make it down there if he can. That game's tomorrow night at 7:30, but I don't know if he's going in there with a ton of optimism.
Okay. Trying to, now that we move away from signing day, and today's the last day players could actually sign, so something wild and woolly and crazy, I guess, could happen. I don't know who's still out there.
I think most everybody's wrapped it up at this point.
And I don't mean who's out there for South Carolina. I just mean who's out there in general that all of a sudden it could be like, you know what, that South Carolina seems like a fun place. Almost essentially what the running back Carson Baker did with Texas A&M.
Yeah, that kind of seemed like a really A&M at the last minute there.
I don't think, to my knowledge, he never took a visit there, didn't know anything about there.
Well, when you see a number come across your phone screen that looks pretty good, that can convince you to go a lot of places.
You call it as you see it, and the bag won out in that situation. I mean,
and the bag thing used to be like a dig, right? Oh, you only got that guy because you paid him. Now it's legal. Now you're almost tipping your cap like, hey, congratulations. You got a bag from A&M bigger than everybody else. Go get that cheese, son. Yeah,
because, again, literally, by all accounts, he made that decision Wednesday night.
Sounds like it.
And so, but it is technically players can still sign. If anybody was out there that hadn't signed or hadn't made a final decision, they could still do it today. But you look now at what South Carolina did, and I heard you kind of talking about it. The Landon Duckworth stuff is great, but we'll see what he becomes.
Ideally, you don't want to have to rely on him next year.
Right. Yeah, and truthfully, you don't want to have to rely on him for the next 2 years. Cutter Woods, and then you go, okay, we got a true quarterback battle. But the way college football is, these kids don't come to sit around and ride the pine.
Right.
And, Cutter Woods didn't do it. Aaron Nolan didn't do it. Landon Duckworth isn't doing it. And, again, we'll have a decision coming from Lenore Sellers. Do you think – I think I addressed this. I did a live little podcast last night, and I kind of addressed this. I don't know, and we'll get into the offense coordinator situation. I guess I was in the car for 20 minutes now. I better hit refresh and make sure that I haven't missed anything. Do you think Shane Beamer looked at this in phases? And by that, I mean went, all right, by Friday on Wednesday, let me get this signing class done.
Mm-hmm.
Let's keep these guys together. I love what I have.
Sure.
By Friday or Monday, I would say Friday, just how things work with getting contracts signed and getting all the small little, and I get it, other schools are getting it done. But if Shane Beamer in his mind sets a time frame of going, okay, I want an answer by Friday and we'll make an announcement on Monday, I would understand that. News would then leak out over the weekend, and then Monday you get this press conference. I could understand that, and that's a perfectly fine timeline with me.
Yeah, I think that is very plausible. Again, I initially thought we would have an OC thing done by this point, but if that's the way you wanted to think about it, that's fine, because, again, you do need to focus a lot of time and energy on getting your class and getting those signed.
If you
and all
were
that.
8-4, you'd be like, I'm not worried about losing these guys.
Sure, we got to have a little extra care when you're 4-8.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, we could come in here on Monday and say, hey, and it may not be officially official then. We say, all right, Big Spur and Gamecock Central reporting that John David Baker is going to be your next OC, and they'll announce it Monday afternoon or something like that. That's very possible.
I would be surprised. I'll admit, I would be surprised if we came in here on Monday at noon and if there isn't a strong leading name, or I shouldn't say if there isn't a name that will be that is pretty much guaranteed, that there isn't a strong leading name. Like I feel like, whether it's official or not, that's in the eye of the beholder on how you want to look. Like official to me is okay. They've done the press conference, and at this point in time, he's actually coached the practice.
Yeah, there is a when the university puts out the formal statement, it's officially official, press conference, and all that kind of stuff. But again, we know when certain outlets start reporting on it, okay, this is going to happen. We just have to make it officially official. So if we at least get those reports over the weekend, all right, cool, this is where it's going, this is what's going to happen.
But I say that to you because I do wonder, did Shane Beamer look at it let me get this signing? I can do some phone interviews, or maybe I can go see somebody. Yeah. Let me get the signing class together. Then let me get the offensive coordinator situation figured out by, let's say, Monday. And then you go to Lenore Sellers and you go, all right.
What's the deal?
I realize you need some time to think, but you've had a lot of time to think. We kind of need a public decision by, let's say, next Friday. I feel like Shane Beamer cannot be the nice, sweet guy right now. And I know behind the doors I've heard he's more cutthroat, Tyler. But, in terms of some things with players, like Nick Harbor and Dylan Stewart, and there's a fine line in pushing them, right? Pushing them, but also getting your answer. You have to kind of be like, okay, I need to know for the sake of moving my program forward.
Because especially, too, with the decision deadline for the draft is, I think, January 15th, which is outside of the window of when guys can commit to being in the portal. Now, you can still sign guys outside of that from the portal, but a lot of movement will be done by that point in time. So, yes, ideally, you would like to know before the portal opens, Sellers, you staying or going. I still think you probably need a quarterback in the portal no matter what happens, just from an experience standpoint. But knowing if you need a guy that comes in as a safety backup or somebody that can come in and potentially be your starter next year is a very big difference. So, yes, if you can put some pressure on Sellers to make that decision sooner rather than later, I think that helps everything out.
Well, yeah, I mean, you sit down with the family and you say, hey, listen, here's the deal. We got to move forward with this program. I got to know who's in and who's out. And again, when you're 8-4, those questions are a little less urgent than when you're 4-8. And one of the things that Jillian Walker has talked about in recent interviews is forming a dynamic duo with Dylan Stewart next year, and how Dylan Stewart played a big role in Jillian Walker committing and coming to South Carolina. That doesn't mean that that Dylan Stewart's back. But to me, it now, if you were to say, all right, we'll build the 50-50, which way do you lean on Dylan Stewart? I'd say, the fact that Jillian Walker signed, it feels like, based on interviews, based on words only, that Jillian Walker was Dylan Stewart's hand-picked dude to go stand on the other end and rush the quarterback.
And these dudes talk to each other, text, hang out, whatever it may be. So that doesn't give you 100% confirmation, but it can make you feel good about the prospect of Stewart coming back if Julian Walker decides to come here to hopefully play that complement on the other side of the defensive line.
Right. And so with all that being said, if you get Sellers, I will admit, you sign that recruiting class, and we'll talk offensive coordinator here in a little while. Kevin Decker is the name that is now starting to bubble to the top very, very prominently. Old Dominion offensive coordinator, and he does have a quarterback in the portal. But Kevin Decker is the name. But if you land him, and there are some concerns I have on Kevin Decker, and we'll get to those, you keep your essential big three. Mm-hmm. So if you've kept your recruiting class, you get Kevin Decker, and you keep your essential big three and say what you want about Sellers, but Sellers, Stewart, and Harbor, I'm kind of do whatever you want the rest of the offseason. You've at least won the month of December.
Yeah, those would be
Clemson game wasn't in December, so technically.
Because that's a big part of anything is we focus on what you get out of the portal, but also retaining talent is huge. And give them a lot of credit. Last year, they didn't lose anybody of note, right? All those were what we call healthy transfers, guys that were depth pieces that wanted more playing time elsewhere and all that kind of stuff. And to this point, that's all you've lost with Sharp, with Xavier Hardy, Michael Smith, all that. It's like guys that weren't your super high-level contributors at their respective spots. So you can keep that going and have Sellers not go to the NFL draft. Big win. Good way to start the offseason.
You'd rather him go to the NFL draft than you would.
Well, yes.
I mean, if he goes to Miami or LSU or that's the one.
If he's not here, you'd rather him be in the draft than playing elsewhere. Yes, that is an important distinction to make. But regardless, if you can get him back here, big win. And obviously, Harbor, Stewart, the other two guys, and kind of that big three that you talk about that would be another win of the offseason if you can get that all.
We'll come back. Brian Edwards of VegasInsider.com joins us. MajorWager.com still having Twitter issues. Is he? Yes, he is. But we'll talk with him about games for the week. You're listening to the Halftime Show. 12:34 on a Friday, a miserable Friday. But that's all right. We'll get you through, get you to the weekend, get the fireplace going, try and relax, hang out, and enjoy your first weekend with limited college football.
You still have enough that's going to occupy all the time slots,
Okay.
which I think that's important. And I like the way that we've structured the 12-team playoff now, where the opening round encompasses Friday night and all day Saturday. So it's not like, all right, I got a game at 1 and then nothing after that. So you at least get a full day, just not the high volume of 30 games going on at once.
Well, joining us now to discuss that and give his picks of the week, Brian Edwards, VegasInsider.com and MajorWager.com. And Mr. Edwards, championship week upon us. Number one, did we have any future bets that we're relying upon for the weekend?
Good question. Yeah, I actually do. I have Jacksonville State, which I got to win Conference USA at plus 350. I want to say that was like 5-ish weeks ago. So I have that in play. But in terms of longer-term futures, I have a Texas Tech ticket to win the CFP at 15-1. I have several NFC North tickets on the Lions, which would have been dead and buried if they lost last night, but they are still alive there. And I actually have a hedge with Green Bay plus 150 as well, but I'll win a lot more if the Lions win. But the Bears would not be good for me, but I'm betting on the Bears this week, so I want them to cover. And I guess I actually am recommending money line, but I won't have my feelings hurt as long as they cover and Green Bay wins. If Green Bay wins outright by less than 7.
Now, do you have anything as far as who's making the playoffs, who's missing out, or anything that you got on in early in reference to that?
I've got I've cashed season win totals on Vandy and Indiana. A loss on Illinois. I've still got probably a loser on the Chiefs, or is that already a loser? Are they going to win out? One or the other. I've got the Lions over. I've got the Falcons under, which is looking good. That's about all that's coming to mind without looking at the list. I've also got a couple losers that are going to be cashing soon. I had LSU to win the CFP. I have the Commanders over, which is already a loss. So I got a lot of stuff. If the Lions win the NFC North, I'll probably come out on the positive a little bit. I was pretty heavy on Vandy, so that and Indiana was good to me as well. So we'll still see on all that. I'll probably be a wash on most of it.
Again, he is Brian Edwards, VegasInsider.com, Major Wager. All right, you mentioned Jacksonville State tonight. They are plus the 2.5, hosting, I believe, Tyler's secret team, Kennesaw State.
That's right.
Your quick thoughts on that is kind of an under-the-radar game.
Nothing wrong with side squads, Tyler. I have many, especially these days with my Gators struggling so much. So even though I have this future bet on Jacksonville State, it's not like I have a ton at risk on that. So I'm actually pressing. I'm going with plus 2.5. Is that still where it is? Let's see. Yeah, it looks like plus 2.5 at most spots. If you want to buy the half point to 3, not against it, but I do think they went outright. In fact, Jacksonville State, and this is a legit home game, by the way. It's in is that town called Jacksonville? I guess it is.
It
I know
is.
it's right by Talladega.
That is Paul Snow Stadium, I believe, still called that.
There we go. They've won 11 in a row there, 9-2 against the spread, and they played Kennesaw State there on November 15th, and they won 35-26, and they've got one of the best running backs in the country, Cam Cook, who actually leads the country in rushing yards with 1,588, 15 rushing touchdowns, 5.7 yards per carry average, and Kennesaw State is only 102 nationally against the run, and as great a season as Kennesaw State has had, and I think second season in FBS, and they're in the conference title game. Not as good on the road, 3-3, both straight up in ATS. So let's go Jack State plus the 2.5.
A lot of rematches this weekend on conference championship, including tomorrow, the Big 12. That'll get things started at noon on ABC. Texas Tech beat BYU 29-7 in Lubbock when they played earlier on this year. 12.5 line, and you like Texas Tech to be able to handle that as well as the team total too?
Yes, so Texas Tech beat them, like you said, Tyler, by 22, even though they settled for short field goals from 27, 39, 29, and 34 yards out. They normally don't get bogged down in the red zone like that. Texas Tech's just been a juggernaut all year, so let's lay the points with them. Let's also go with a team total. I got it over 30.5 early in the week, which had some extra juice, but I would like it if it's 31 or 31.5. as well, because the Red Raiders are number 2 in the nation in scoring, 47.1 points per game average, and they have scored at least 34 in 10 of 12 games. Now, one of those that they didn't was obviously BYU, but like I said, they had a lot of short field goals that game. So and not only do I like Texas Tech laying the points for the game and team total over, I'm also going to play them in the first half as long as it's -7 or fewer. I got -7 last night. I'm not against the first quarter if you want to do that and just get really aggressive on all sorts of Texas Tech bets. Not against it.
All right. Everything all in on Texas Tech. SEC championship game, Alabama and Georgia, and you're going to roll with the Tide.
Since Matt Stafford threw that touchdown pass, Saban's first year in 2007 to beat them in OT, the OT touchdown pass. Since then, Alabama's 10-1 against Georgia. And truth be told, if Mechie doesn't blow out his knee late in the SEC championship game in 21, and Jameson Williams doesn't blow out his knee in the first quarter of the title game in Indianapolis, I will go to my grave telling you that Alabama would be on an 11-game winning streak right now. But those two guys got hurt. Georgia got the natty game in Indy that year. But other than that, it's been all Bama in this rivalry. So until I see Georgia beat them, I'll be rolling with Bama. But look, there's not much difference between +2.5 and +2 or 1.5. I would just be patient. Let's wait and see if we get a 3 tomorrow. If not, no problem. I think Bama wins outright.
Let's flip over to the NFL now. The battle for the NFC North. Bears going on the road to Green Bay. Bears keep finding ways to win in all these tight games. So maybe a little surprising that they're almost a 7-point dog there in Green Bay this weekend.
Yeah, if the number's 6.5, I would buy the half point to 7, and it looks like it's still 6.5 across the board. But like I said earlier, I think the Bears have a chance to win outright, maybe a small play on the money line in the +230 to +270 range. The Bears have won 5 in a row and 9 of 10, 8-2 against the spread in that stretch. And Caleb Williams, still a little erratic with his accuracy at times, but he's taking care of the football. Last 5 games, 8-1 TDI-INT ratio. I know I didn't send y'all any other games, but I will say I like the Bucks in a teaser, bumping them down from 8.5 to 2.5, and you can pair that with the Ravens if you want, basically taking them from -6 or 5.5 to pick them, or +1.5 if they get overtime and it ends in a tie. So yeah, I like a teaser with the Bucks and the Ravens, and I don't know if we're out of time, but if y'all want, I have a few UFC picks. I don't know.
Go right ahead. We got about a minute and a half left. What you got?
Yeah, so in the opener of the UFC 323 card, the opener of the prelims on ESPN 2, ESPN 2, that is, at 8 Eastern. It's a lightweight fight. I like Nazim Sadikov as a +115 underdog. That's Nazim Sadikov, +115 dog. He is 4-0-1, had 1 draw in his UFC tenure. Then 2 fights later, I like Terrence McKinney as a +135 underdog. He's 4-1 in his last 5 fights, all 4 wins by first-round finish. And then in the co-main event, the flyweight champ Alexander Pantoja, I like him +150 prop to win by submission. And if you want to do a parlay with Merab Divashvili in the main event and put that in with Pantoja, so it's Merab, Pantoja, and then also go Jalen Turner in the early prelims, a three-leg parlay. Turner, Pantoja, and Divashvili. I think that'll pay out about +130. They're all 3 heavy favorites, but we'll get plus money on that 3-leg parlay.
Mr. Edwards, we always appreciate it. Know you're a busy man. Get that Twitter fixed for you, and we will look forward to catching up, talking a little basketball next week, and look ahead to some bowl games.
Thanks, guys. And if anybody wants to follow the Major Wager Twitter, which I'm doing my tweeting from, at Major Wager Uno. You guys have a great weekend. Thanks, fellas.
Thanks.
Take care. Major Wager Uno on Twitter, how you can reach out to Brian Edwards. We'll come back, wrap up hour number one. A couple national coaching changes, and we'll get to those. You're listening to the Halftime Show. Final segment of the hour on your Friday. Tyler Head, Bill Gunner, Captain David Air. Big thank you to Brian Edwards for joining us there. We'll get into those games a little bit more coming up later on in the program. That Georgia-Alabama game, one that we got to determine the importance of it, right?
Sure.
We got to determine the actual importance. So that's it's a game that 4 years ago, 5 years ago, we'd be really fired up for.
Of course.
Maybe even more fired up for Indiana, Ohio, number 1 and number 2, Ohio State, Indiana and Ohio State. And yet it's kind of like, whoever loses, I guess, okay, just take your lump and go into the college football playoff.
Yeah, and I mentioned earlier, in 2021, Alabama beat Georgia in the championship game, and both teams still made the playoff and rematched, for the national championship that Georgia won. But even still, there was debate, right? Even coming away from that game, you didn't know for sure, oh, man, Georgia may not get in. They may bump them out by losing that. But now you can definitively say, especially with the way that the committee set the rankings the other night, yeah, both teams are getting in.
Right.
Okay, if Georgia beats Alabama by 40, maybe we have a debate. I don't think that's going to happen. And even if Alabama loses, it's a 1-1 split for the series this year. So both teams get in. Same thing with the Big Ten. Now, yeah, the Big 12 and ACC are true playing get in for BYU and Virginia and stuff like that. But, yeah, it's lost some kind of meaning to some degree with the expanded playoff.
803-404-6100. So yesterday, didn't take long. Billy Napier back employed. Did this catch you off guard? Did it feel like a good fit? Does it?
Well, the debate always becomes all right, did these guys take some time off? Do they cool their jets a little bit? They go jump in. By the way, we might have some Penn State news here as well, because I'm getting notification now. Do you go do TV, which Billy Napier doesn't translate to a TV guy.
No.
So you thought maybe he just be away, or maybe he goes and becomes an assistant, a coordinator somewhere for a year or two before getting back into being a head coach. But hey, look, these guys are competitors. Nobody gets into being a football coach for the money. You do it because you love it. The money comes with it, especially as you continue to climb higher and higher. Look, James Madison looks like a turnkey operation right now. Kurt Signetti goes there, wins. Bob Chesney goes there, wins. They could be in the playoff if things break a certain way coming up this weekend. So if I'm Napier, who, again, had a lot of success at Louisiana before going to Florida in the Sun Belt, I'm right back at home, and I'm at a place that's doing pretty well right now.
Napier's 46. Yeah, his dad was a football coach. He's a football guy. I think that's part of it. He's a guy that strikes me as he doesn't know what to do without football.
Yeah.
And you're right, commentating wasn't going to work. He'll be 47 next July. Now, James Madison, is that a good fit for him? That's going to be my question, because Steve Spurrier taking some shots at him for the scared money don't make money. Napier seems like more of a guy who's fit for what was the program he was at previously? Louisiana? Yeah. That kind of needs motivational quotes, whereas you mentioned James Madison just kind of feels like they're doing their own thing and rolling along.
Yeah, they're winning right now. Now, if he goes there and they're 7-6 3 years in, they're probably not going to run him out of town. But it's a higher standard, it feels like, than a lot of other G5 schools right now.
Yeah.
So he's going to have a little more pressure than if he went to Eastern Michigan or something like that. But you make it to being a head coach in the SEC for a reason, and I know we poked plenty of fun at Billy and his time there, but he's a good football coach, and I think he can go there and do fine.
Now, at Penn State, they, I don't know how they feel. I genuinely don't know how they feel. You get rid of James Franklin, I don't know if in the back of their mind they're all right, Matt Rule's in the bag, or maybe they thought Eli Drinkwitz is in the bag, or Clark Lee. I genuinely don't know how they felt about it, but I say all that because now, Tyler, it looks like they could end up with Matt Campbell, and that's not a bad place to end up.
It's not, and look, Campbell's one of these names that every single year gets brought up in coaching cycles. He's been at Iowa State for a decade now, and they've had some good years. They've had some okay years. They've had some down years. So, but the belief of Matt Campbell is he's like a builder, right? He's somebody that comes in, gets you a good foundation, and builds off of that. Is that going to be successful at Penn State? I don't know. Is he a better coach than James Franklin? Right now, I lean towards no. But considering where you were at in this coaching search, that's not a bad landing place if you're Penn State.
It's a good place if you're taking that from the Matt Campbell side,
from the
right?
Matt Campbell side, yes. And if you're Penn State, considering how many other people told you no, you could end up with worse, right? I think.
you could definitely end up with worse. We've seen a lot of that. Does it feel like you upgraded? Does it feel like
No,
you
it doesn't-
made it? Does it feel
does
like
not
you
feel like you upgraded, but it's not as bad as it looked like it was going to be, if that makes sense.
Okay.
That's how I look at it.
All right. So you said you had news on it. Is that where we were?
Well, I got the notification from The Athletic that they're closing in on a deal. So that's like, all right. And this isn't like the Sataki thing where it's like, hey, he might be. Like, when you start getting the notifications, that's when it's like, okay, it looks like this deal's getting close to being done.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, Matt Campbell has always been rumored to be going somewhere.
He's always in the conversation,
and he's never left. I feel like twice South Carolina's been on South Carolina's radar for a particular job, and for whatever reason they either never talked to him or he wasn't interested. But yeah, now you're starting to get a bunch of them that are coming out. Pete Thamel, The Athletic, everybody.
Do I think he's going to lead Penn State to a national championship? I say probably not. Do I think he can have them be solid? Maybe a little step behind James Franklin? Sure. It's not what they wanted, but it's what they're getting.
Step behind James Franklin is not the direction you wanted to go, but maybe he's a placeholder until you find that next great coach.
We'll see.
Who knows? 803-404-6100. If you want to weigh in, we'll come back next hour. Chris Deering will join us for the high school highlights of the week, state championship weekend. And also, we'll talk about it. Less than a week from now, we learn South Carolina's true day by day or Saturday by Saturday schedule, and we'll talk about that. You're listening to the Halftime Show. Bill Gunner for Mid-State Roofing, where for nearly 30 years they've been the leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry. And on days like today, you better have Mid-State Roofing's phone number, 803-356-1919. Again, that's 803-356-1919. Pretty important to have them because if you're walking around the office, you're walking around your house, and you look up and you notice a leak, well, guess what? It's time to let Mid-State Roofing take a peek. And they're there for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We're supposed to get this rain here for quite some time over the next 48 hours, so you don't know when a leak may occur. And wherever you're at, here in Columbia, in Florence, in Aiken, in Charleston, in Greenville or Spartanburg, Myrtle Beach, wherever, Mid-State Roofing is there to help you wherever you're listening this afternoon. So, again, save the number. Give them a phone call. Get a maintenance contract. 803-356-1919. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you.
All right, hour number 2, halftime show. Tyler Head, Bill Gunner, Captain Dave along with you here on your Friday. We'll get more into football stuff coming up in a minute. Real quick, though, women's basketball last night, picking up the win over Louisville. Not an easy game. Had to come back, got in a little bit of a hole late in the game, but are able to get it done, kind of shake off that loss to Texas last week, pick up a quality win over Louisville, and back home this Sunday taking on North Carolina Central, which I don't think that's going to be as tight of a game.
Oh, boy, North Carolina Central. Yeah, I got to admit, I think I saw a 3 at the end by Louisville that could have won it. I'll admit I was.
The girl missed the 3, and she was almost in tears
That's
in
what
the
I'm saying.
final seconds.
For Louisville, I had the 2 TVs going. I had the Carolina Hurricanes and the Toronto Maple Leafs on the main TV. I was into that, and I'm not sure why I deserved that punishment because it was 5-1 Maple Leafs. But I happened to look over real quick and see the Carolina women's game, and they shot 3 there. Louisville did and missed it. I went, okay, they got that cut. They got that wrapped up.
Carolina had a rough third quarter, turned the ball over 5 times. Ocote really kind of took over there in the fourth quarter, scored a lot of those points down the stretch, and helped them escape with a 79-77 win. Again, missed 3-pointer there right at the very end by Louisville, but got yourself back on the winning track, which is good. And maybe this team won't dominate everybody the way that it has in years past, but those kind of games, good for you. Kind of get things back on track as you come away from that Texas loss. If you want to go see them play North Carolina Central coming up on Sunday, have 2 family 4-packs for callers number 4 and 5 right now at 803-404-6100. That game tips off at noon over at Colonial Life Arena. Again, callers number 4 and 5 right now at 803-404-6100.
There you go. All right, go watch the women's team. Tomorrow, the men's team will take on Stetson at 2 o'clock. Y'all must have made fun of Stetson previous to our show starting about being the Hatters.
The Hatters. Well, we were trying to determine where the name came from. Because it's an interesting name. Apparently, John B. Stetson, the founder of the Stetson Hat Company, I guess he either went there or was a main benefactor of the university.
Okay.
So when you write a big check, well, they might just give you the mascot.
Yeah, that's the way to do it.
It's named after the Stetson Hat Company, which makes sense. But at first I was like, Hatters, what is that?
Yeah. Well,
there you go. Little history lesson.
The basketball side of things, the men's side of things, I don't know where to take it right now. You play this game tomorrow, then you get the full break coming up, the break next week, the exam break. That, by the way, is the break that Lenora Sellers was talking about, getting his exams done and then trying to make a decision on his future. And to quote his words, doing what is best for him. But you look at this right now and the fact that these teams that you're playing and that you're beating, good job, you're beating them.
Yeah.
That's an improvement. But the Ken Palm and the RPIs are so low, it's not helping you with what you may need if you're on the bubble. If, that's a huge if, I don't think they will be, come March.
Considering the gauntlet you're going to face in conference play, you needed at least a couple of these non-con games against Butler, Northwestern, Virginia Tech, or Clemson, which is going to come up after the break, to go your way, to give you something, right? Good quality wins you can add to your resume, because right now you're looking at, you still got to play Clemson, so there's still that, but you're going to have to rely on all your quality wins coming in conference play, which, again, the SEC was the best it had ever been last year, and, what we've seen of this team this year leads us to believe there's going to be some challenges in conference play. And look, getting back to the tournament is a goal every single year. It's going to be an uphill battle once again this year, and you would have liked to have had at least maybe 1 or 2 of those wins that you came up short in to help bolster your resume a little bit.
Yeah, you were trying to go 2-2 in the Big Four.
Yes.
And right now you're 0-3 with Clemson still to go, and Clemson's a pretty good basketball team, and we'll kind of see how that plays out. I was looking for the updated Ken Palm on Stetson. South Carolina sits at number 91, the men's team in the Ken Palm. That's not a good place to be. I was looking for updated on Stetson to see if they were just kind of how bad they were. I've not been able to locate them just yet, Tyler. I have scrolled a couple times, but there's so many names that I'm sure I've scrolled past them. I have a hard time believing they're inside the top 100. So maybe I'll locate that here in just a little while. 803-404-6100 coming up. In about 10 minutes, we'll catch up with Chris Deering at the high school state championships.
They're 343.
Oh.
out of 360 something.
Oh, dear Lord.
So there you go.
Yeah, I don't know if I went that far. All right.
Well, you can click on Carolina, and it'll tell you what their opponents are.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I see how you did that. I'm just looking. Mississippi Valley State, Coppin State, the Citadel, Delaware State, and Morgan State round out.
But is
361 through 365.
I would say the Citadel is almost dead last, and that's your first game after the break, and then Clemson, and then you play a lot of 300s this year, man.
Yes. Well, no, and
which was by design. We talked about we talked about that with Paris before the season. Like, you wanted games to get you to ease into things a little bit.
But to your point, and the way you just said that, though, is what a lot of people have argued, and I've kind of taken the view that you just did, which is, well, hey, you're going to use these games to do whatever you got to do and to get your rotation ready for SEC play. But the key to that was winning.
Yes.
One of the Greenbrier games, Butler or Northwestern, and then really winning the Virginia Tech game because it was at home, and then seeing if you could steal one of the other two.
Yeah, ideally. And look, Clemson's going to be by far the best team you will play in the non-conference out of those other three coming up here in a couple weeks. So yeah, it's not quite been the way you wanted to. And look, you weren't getting blown out in those games. You were in all of those games to some degree at the very end. Obviously, if Michi gets a shot off there at the end of regulation, who knows what happens the other night against Virginia Tech. That's something we're going to be revisiting a lot, I feel like, as the season goes along, of what could have been and that moment and all that kind of stuff. But, and look, we're all sick of things being close coming off of football season. So you're not like far away, but you got to figure out how to close those things out. 803-404-6100.
Again, let me ask you this. Let's go back. Chris Deering set to join us, or will join us here in about 7 minutes. But I want to go back on our live stream. You can go to youtube.com and check out our live stream. One of the people on there says Bama ain't getting in with 3 losses. They will get jumped.
No.
You're going Bama. You're going. Most people are saying Bama's in regardless, and that this loss, to an extent, will not count against them in the SEC championship because they got there.
Here's why. And look, the committee lies through their teeth every single week, telling us they don't deal in hypotheticals and they don't set things up for what may happen on the weekend. Alabama went from 10-9 over Notre Dame by beating a below-average Auburn team in a game that they nearly blew the lead. There was no reason for them to make that jump, but what it did is it set the committee up where they don't have to make the tough decision of leaving Alabama out if BYU wins this weekend. Here's how this is going to work. If Georgia wins and Alabama loses, again, aside from Alabama getting beat by 30 points or something along those lines, you say Alabama played an extra game. They earned the right to be there. We're not going to penalize them for that. I don't think they move at all. They would stay at number 9 if they lose to Georgia. Notre Dame, who does not have an extra data point this weekend, if BYU wins, because Texas Tech is already in. They're no problem. They're going to be in no matter what. BYU, if they win, they lock in automatically by winning the Big 12 championship, which moves the line down and eliminates Notre Dame. So you've put yourself in a position as the committee where Alabama gets in no matter what, and the only real debate at the line is if BYU wins, you knock Notre Dame out. If BYU loses, Notre Dame's in. Alabama, I would be shocked if they are not in the playoff, even if they lose tomorrow.
Okay, there you go. So Tyler says they are in. We'll kind of consider and see what happens. Again, as you said, now there's a scenario where I believe if Duke wins, we have a little bit more chaos.
Yes, and the committee the other day, because they've been gaslighting Miami so bad these past couple weeks because they always do the highest ranked teams, the assumed champions, so they put them in the graphic. But Miami didn't have a pathway to the ACC title.
Right.
So you were lying to them by saying you'd be the ACC representative. This week they at least said conference champions number 4 and 5 as the placeholder, which the American Conference Championship tonight with North Texas and Tulane is a win and get in. They're both ranked. Winner that gets in, no questions asked. If Duke wins tomorrow, Duke's not ranked right now.
Right, exactly. This is what I'm saying.
There is no pathway, I think, for them to get in by beating Virginia tomorrow. So that if James Madison wins tonight, they are also ranked. That puts in 2 G5 teams. Now, I think Virginia's going to win this game. I don't think Duke's good enough. And Virginia beat them by 17 when they played earlier on this year. So I think that'll take care of itself. but I'm half rooting for the chaos, right? Because I just want to see what happens.
I'd have to go back and look at the Virginia Duke game. I did not have that on my.
Yeah, 34-17. They outgained.
Where was it at?
It was. I want to say it was at Duke. I think Virginia outgained them by like 300 yards. It was like 540 to like 250.
Remember, Virginia played their best ball at the beginning of the season too.
They did.
They weren't exactly a juggernaut coming down the stretch, and became prone for some fourth quarter mistakes here.
I wrote some notes on this. Let me see here. Yeah, they outgained Duke by 300 yards.
That was November. That was actually what, 3 weeks ago?
They held Darian Mensah to his second lowest passing total of the entire season.
Yeah,
and that's a guy that can sling the rock a lot. Like, I feel pretty confident saying Virginia's going to win. Which, by the way, good for Tony Elliott. Like, that's a program that's been through a lot past couple of years. They lost a couple players.
Saw he was named coach of the year.
Coach of the year.
Yep.
The tragedy that they skipped the last couple games of the season a few years ago. So, and look, he came into the season on a hot seat.
He did.
And they turned things around pretty quickly.
803-404-6100 will come back. Currently, they are down there in Orangeburg in the muck, but we've got a game taking place. It is BHP. I just had it. BHP in Oceanside. Looks like in about 20 minutes ago, it was 0-0 at the end of the first quarter. We'll catch up with Chris Deering and get his thoughts on the weekend. You're listening to the Halftime Show. Bill Gunner for the Mortgage Guru, Jacob Crowder and First Palmetto Bank. Let me tell you, Jacob helped me 5 years ago get a great interest rate, great down payment on my condo over on Lake Murray, and he can do the exact same thing for you. So as we head toward 2026, if you're looking to build a home, check out First Palmetto Bank's no-nonsense construction loan. Don't know how much you might be able to save until you make a phone call. Also, if you're looking to refinance, there's great options right now available, but you've got to call Jacob Crowder today and learn more about this. 803-719-1005. Again, that's 803-719-1005. Again, maybe you're looking to remodel and you need a little bit of cash, or you're just looking to flat out buy a new home. Whatever it may be, the Mortgage Guru, Jacob Crowder, is there for you. So give him a phone call, 803-719-1005. Normally, it's a beautiful weekend, state championship weekend, but not so much today and tomorrow, Tyler Head.
Yeah, good state championship for fish.
Yeah. Oh.
So not ideal for football.
Joining us now, as he does each and every Friday, Mr. Chris Deering. And, Chris, are you already down in Orangeburg? Are you dealing with this weather that we have going on?
Yep, down in Orangeburg, we've already got the first half of the first game complete. I've told a lot of people this week because there's been a lot of talk about the weather and people wanting games postponed and all that stuff. The only thing the weather's bothering is the fans. The players don't care. Been there, done that. You actually love to play in a little bit of rain, a little bit of wet weather. It gets the juices going really good. So I don't think the players are affected by this at all. It's the fans and the media like me that's got to come out here and cover it. But I think we're in line for a bunch of good football this weekend. And despite the weather, and hopefully the fans will come out and see it. Sort of a sparse crowd here for this first game between Oceanside and BHP. Like I said, we're at halftime, and Oceanside has a 14-0 lead over BHP in the Class 3A state championship. Excuse me. Yeah.
Sorry. Let's go to the game that follows that. Down in 1A, got Bamberg, who's seeking their first title since 1990, taking on Lamar, who's seeking their fifth title. That game will kick off about 4 o'clock today.
Yeah, that's going to be a good game. I think that's going to be a ball control game. Two really good quarterbacks in this one. Didn't know much about Bamberg Earhart until the playoffs started, but been following them really close. They're undefeated, one of two undefeated teams here this weekend. And their quarterback, Brian McMillan, I'm just going to call this kid a football player. He's got 66 touchdowns he's accounted for this season, over 4,000 yards of total offense. And he plays defense with 5 interceptions and about 65 tackles. So I'm really looking forward to him. He's one of the guys I want to see this weekend. And he's going up against a really good Lamar defense that's gotten better as the season's gone along. So that should be an entertaining Class A game. And Zori Pierce, the quarterback for Lamar, he's been good. He had 6 touchdowns last weekend in the semifinal win. So that's going to be a good game to watch. And, a little bit of ball control by both teams. And Bamberg Earhart, if McMillan gets about 150 yards rushing today, they'll have 3 guys over 1,000 yards rushing. And so that's pretty impressive as well.
Let's go to 4A for a second. I understand South Florence is just unstoppable at this point. They've got a great matchup with South Point. Now, that'll be tomorrow. But your thoughts on South Florence and South Point. And, again, that is scheduled for noon tomorrow to get things going down there.
Probably the marquee matchup of the weekend, in my opinion,
really?
Is that game. Yeah, just with the star power and, South Florence has been here 4 years in a row. South Point hasn't been here in a minute, but, they got Javion Currents, who's been really good at quarterback. He also plays defensive back in South Carolina signee. But this should be a really good game. I think these teams sort of mirror each other. They're a lot alike. They haven't played many close games this year, so it's going to be really interesting to watch this game and see how it unfolds. If somebody gets, a couple breaks early and can get the momentum, do they keep it, and are the other team able to come back from it? So, yeah, I think this is honestly, I think it's the marquee matchup of the weekend at 12 o'clock tomorrow.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I was sitting at the South Carolina football game. Somebody, correct me if I'm wrong on this because it was just in passing, but I believe somebody said last night, did you see what South Florence did to Gray Collegiate? This was a week ago when I was sitting at the Carolina Clemson game, and it was something like 55-13 or something. Is that right, Chris? It was. Yeah,
it was not close. That's correct. Again, neither one of these teams have played really a close game in a while. So it's going to be, again, I think this is, you look at each other in the mirror, and I think both of these teams are really good. The quarterback of South Florence, Messiah Jackson, he's been here before. He won the state championship last year over Cutter Woods and Westside. So he knows, how to win a state championship, and he's got a good bit of talent around him. And so does Currents on the South Point side. So it should be, again, that's the game that, I'll be here early for tomorrow. I got here ready to kick off today.
had a little bit of traffic coming down from Columbia, and I had to work my other job, but got here ready to kick off it in the morning. I should be here pretty early, ready to go for that 12 o'clock game tomorrow.
The game that'll follow that down in 2A, Strom-Thurmond, a team that I feel like we've talked about a lot over the course of this season, looking for their first title in 20 years, taking on Hampton County tomorrow afternoon at 4.
Yeah, there's another player for Hampton County that I'm very curious to see, Jalen Singletary. He's just put up numbers that's off the charts, actually. I think he's got over, I'm looking it up right now, I think he's got over 2,500 yards rushing. Where are we at here? 24, yeah, he's got 2482 and 42 rushing touchdowns. I mean, that's video game numbers. And, you know, he's going up against a Strom-Thurmond team that maybe is probably the best defense Hampton County's seen this year. Hampton County did have a little stretch during the middle of the season where they lost 3 games in a row against teams from a higher classification, but they did have that losing streak. But they, you know, once they got into playing their level of teams, they were able to get on a hot streak and basically ride Singletary here to this championship. But they're going up against a Rebels team that's really good defensively. They got Bryson Coleman is good on the defensive side. Shaheed Williams in the secondary. So that's going to be a game that if Singletary can get going, and I think he's got, if I'm not mistaken, I think he's got 12 straight games of 2 touchdowns or more in a game. So again, if they can stop him, I think you stop Hampton County and see what Hampton County can do with that Strom-Thurmond. This could be a big running game with a big rushing attack from Strom-Thurmond, and we'll see what they can do there.
Tonight, 7:30. Good grief! I don't know what the weather's going to be like now then. But Irmo and Northwestern, your thoughts?
Yeah, rematch from last year. That was really a good game. Northwestern won 34-31 in the game last year. Different cast of characters on both sides. You know, Xavier Means, the quarterback at Northwestern, he wasn't the starter last year. Trayvon Dobson, an Irmo quarterback, he wasn't the starter last year. So both of these teams are different, but they got back to the state championship. So that says a lot about the programs and what Coach Aaron Brand and Paige Wofford has done with those two teams. I'll tell you, I saw Irmo last week, and that was probably one of the better defensive performances I've seen this season. You know, Jaden Bryant gets a lot of the press. He's being recruited by South Carolina. He's a junior. But they got some other guys on that defense, Tyrone Jennings, Major Taylor. Those guys are really good. I'll tell you, they stuffed Berkeley at the line of scrimmage last week and never let that game even be competitive. So they're really good. You know, Jennings wasn't at Irmo last year, so he's going to be a difference maker, I think, in this game. And Northwestern, as they come in with that air raid attack, Meads has been good at quarterback and see if they can, you know, exploit some things on the Irmo side. If they can block that front four, they might have a chance. But I'm going to tell you, that's going to be a tall task for the Trojans tonight.
The main event of the weekend tomorrow night, 5A, Division II, Dutch Fork, who just has a residency in this game every single year, certainly for the past decade, taking on the Fighting Preston Thorns of Somerville. If you're interested, you can watch 2 new Gamecock commits, and obviously Julian Walker and Anthony Baxter playing for that Dutch Fork team as, again, Somerville trying to get over that Dutch Fork hump, something they've not been able to do up to this point.
Yeah, they've never beaten Dutch Fork, which is, you know, hard for me to believe. And it's been since 1998 since Somerville's won a state championship, which, you know, growing up in the low country, Somerville being a rival of where I played, you know, they were constantly in the state championship and always there. You know, I think they've won 13 as a program. John McKissick's won 10. Tom Knotts can tie John McKissick and Willie Varner with 10 state championships in the state of South Carolina if he wins this one. Dutch Fork is in their 10th straight state championship. I mean, the numbers are just mind-boggling what Tom Knotts has done at Dutch Fork. They're going for a 4-peat. This will be their second 4-peat in the last decade if they can get this done. It's a rematch. Like they won the game last year, 35-21. Again, both teams have a different cast of characters. New quarterback at Somerville and Max Stafford, a new quarterback at Dutch Fork and Jackson Knox. And the defense, I think, for Dutch Fork might be the difference in this game. You already mentioned Julian Walker. They got Jaden Worth on the other side. Raleigh Salters in the middle, Mario Anderson in the secondary. Those guys are really good. And I think when they will play up to their potential, there might not be many teams better than that in the state. So tall task for Summerville, but we'll see how they handle it. The one thing they have to do, I think, is get Jaden Kelly Murray going, and he's a junior that's also being recruited by all the Power 4 schools. So it's going to be interesting to see if they can get him, part of the attack. And their running back, Javon Williams, is over 2,000 yards rushing, and he's been really good this year. So, again, I call South Point, South Florence the main game, but this is 1B if you want to rank them, in my opinion.
Real quick, your thoughts on Julian Walker flipping yesterday to South Carolina from Michigan?
Honestly, was not surprised that he flipped. I know South Carolina was hot and heavy on him all season. He was there. He wouldn't say a whole lot, but when people interviewed him this year, he was always go blue in the interviews. But I felt like there was always a chance for South Carolina to flip him. And I'll be honest, I've said this many times. I've watched Walker since he was a sophomore. When he's motivated and wanting to play football, he's very difficult to block. He's 6'6", 235, 240 pounds coming off the edge. He's going to be good at the next level. It's just determining how good. I know Tom Knott said yesterday he's not just a Saturday guy. He's going to be playing on Sundays one day, and I can't really dispute that. That's how good I think he is. And if he comes in this game motivated, some of those going to have their hands full with him and the rest of that defensive front. But I like Walker. I've liked him since I saw him as a sophomore. And I've seen him take over games and dominate from a defensive line position, and that's hard to do.
Chris, we always appreciate it. Stay warm down there. Enjoy the time, maybe not the weather, and we will catch up with you next week to talk a little basketball, some big local basketball tournaments coming up. I know we've got the Bojangles Bash, I believe, coming in here on Wednesday to talk to us. So we got a lot to get to, but we will certainly catch up with you next week. Again, stay warm down there and enjoy your time.
I appreciate you guys. Have a great weekend. Thanks for having me on.
Yep, thanks, Chris.
Take care. Bye. Chris Deary joining us this afternoon for the high school highlights of the week. We'll come back. All right, this schedule thing, now it gets fun.
Yeah.
Now it gets fun. We'll do that, and we'll also talk about what South Carolina is really losing next year as we wrap up the next 30 minutes of hour number 2. You're listening to the Halftime Show. It is 1:35 on a Friday, a disgusting little Friday, but we roll along. Good luck again to all the state championship players, the coaches, the administrators, the parents, the band members. I got to play in 2 state championship basketball games for Lexington High School. Won one, lost one. It is an experience. It's a great. We played it at Frank McGuire Arena. Lexington, the fan base was phenomenal. We had an incredible. It was basketball, not football. We had an incredible student section. I did get to watch the year afterwards. So I graduated 99, 2000. In 2000, my freshman year at South Carolina, Lexington played for the state championship against Dorman for this over at Williams Bright Stadium. Demetrius Summers ran for about 200 yards in the first half, and then David Gutshaw and Dorman figured it out and shut him down, and Dorman came back and won that game. I want to say, not to break any of my good buddies' hearts from Lexington, but I want to say it was like 24-21.
Yeah.
27-24, something very close in that nature, but it's an incredible feeling to play for a state championship and a wild feeling to win one.
I got to wrestle at Team State my sophomore year of high school. Now we got our butts kicked and we got eliminated because it's a two and done bracket. We got our butts kicked by the eventual champions, Camden County, and then we lost to Lassiter. I did win my match against Lassiter, so I've won a match at the state level. They do it in the Macon Coliseum there in Georgia, so that's cool to actually be in a legitimate arena as opposed to a high school, high school gym. So yeah, when you get to that level, no matter what sport it is, it's a big deal, something you remember forever, and good memories.
So again, good luck to all of those people. Again, parents who have driven your son or daughter all over for the last 12 years of high school, for the administrators who are part of the schools, for the coaches, obviously, who have worked to get there, and, of course, the players. Good luck to you as we get into state championship week for high school. Man, unbelievable that we're done with it. I know I was out for, obviously, 7 weeks, 6 weeks. I think one of the last conversations we had was, all right, here's Chris. Here's when we're starting Chris. And then we get into it, and then high school football in the state is wrapped up, and to me, it's still the purest form of football we have, just in terms of it being about the school.
Sure.
My kids go to Gilbert, so I love going out there and hearing Gilbert America and just the pride they take in the town.
Right.
And you got so many of those towns. You had growing up here. That take so much pride in their town and take so much pride in their high school football team.
I was talking to Preston a little bit earlier, and he was telling me about Bamberg and how the entire town is invested in football. Everything shuts down on Friday nights for the games and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, that's what you love, especially in the South, right? Because we take it even more seriously here than some other places around the country. Texas and stuff like that are obviously really big deals, but you kind of love that community aspect of high school football where everything's about it. And, again, the town shuts down, everybody's at the game and all those kind of things. And a lot of those teams being represented this weekend in the state championships. Again, I wish the weather was nicer.
Yeah.
But, hopefully you can run the ball.
For my own sake, I wish the weather was nicer, let alone the sake of those who actually have to go sit in it or participate in it.
That is the beauty, because you start off the season when it's 100 degrees and deathly humid, and then you end wrapped up in the freezing cold more likely than not.
It's so anyway, good luck to them. And again, next Wednesday, we'll have Brian Rosefield in with us from Ridgeview, and he will talk to us about the upcoming Bojangles Bash that gets going next weekend. So we're transitioning football.
Yep.
Right on into the winter sports now as well, boys and girls basketball. 803-404-6100. So next Thursday, we learn the dates. We know the opponents.
That was one special on the SEC network.
Excellent work, SEC. You have figured it all out. But next Thursday, we will learn the dates. And I don't know if I watch this because I'm like, okay, can I visit that game?
Yeah.
When does that
start planning things out?
Like, I look at it a little bit different. But this year, I'm going to look at it from the standpoint of about the first 3 or 4 conference games for Shane Beamer. Like, what do you have, and can you get through that?
Yeah.
That gives you hope and we'll just draw the deadline at October 15th. I don't think that's a Saturday, but from mid-October through the end of the season.
Yeah, and the way, because again, we still don't know who the week 1 opponent's going to be. It'll be some FCS school or something like that. A game you should win. Towson's week number 2. Should win that as well. You got a good chance to start the season off 2-0. You, of course, have Clemson at the very end of the year. You got 9 straight conference games, and the bye week's going to be snuck in the middle there somewhere. So you've got 9 SEC games consecutively over the course of 10 weeks. And you're right. Yeah, you could get a Kentucky or Mississippi State or Florida to start things off, or you could go Alabama, A&M, Georgia, and Oklahoma, the 4 SEC teams that are going to make the playoff, all boom, 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 to start your conference slate.
And I'm not being funny, but y'all know exactly how the SEC at times has treated South Carolina, and I don't want to be one of those, Tyler, conspiracy theorists that's like, boy, South Carolina gets the short end of the stick on this, but this is going to be big. So we ask you today, 803-404-6100, because I think a 2-1 start is imperative. As odd as it sounds.
In conference play.
In conference play. I'm sorry, yes, in conference play. How do you draw up your 2026 start to the season? Now, let me remind you, for those of you that don't have this job and you're not always completely invested in this, but South Carolina, remember, we're going to 9 conference games. So next year, you've got 5 home games. You get the break, you get the 5 home games, and then you get the 4 road games. Now, we do know of Tennessee being back on the schedule, Georgia being back on the schedule, Florida being back on the schedule. All right. Now, you've got road games at Alabama, at Oklahoma, at Arkansas, and at Florida. Those are your 4. Let me repeat that. Road games at Florida, at Bama, at Arkansas. Am I sure on this? Is this the way it's reading correctly?
That's correct.
Okay, yeah. All right. For some reason, I thought Arkansas was here. But anyway, I had Arkansas and Mississippi State backwards. But at Bama, at Arkansas, at Florida, at Oklahoma, home games against Georgia, Kentucky, Mississippi State, Tennessee, Texas A&M. Now, it's easy for us or easy for you to go out and say, well, give me Arkansas, Kentucky, and Mississippi State right off the bat. Those 3 games that should be tossed up so we can get 3. No.
Sure.
That also,
probably not going to get that.
That also means you're going to go through some kind of gauntlet of Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, A&M.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like, how do you draw this up to give you the best schedule?
You want to space it out. And look, these other teams are looking at South Carolina saying, hey, oh boy, we play South Carolina. That's a winnable game for us. So nothing's a layup at this point in time. So, yeah, I think if you circled the games you feel the best about right now, Arkansas, obviously Mississippi State.
So is that
Kentucky.
who would be your opener? And let me be clear about this because we discussed this the other day. I went and looked, and those 9 opponents, as of now, those 9 opponents all have an opening day game scheduled.
Yes.
That's why we're saying you can't have, there should not be, unless the SEC finagles something, which has happened.
It could.
Or, maybe ABC comes back. I forget. ABC will obviously have the Clemson LSU game. I don't know what else. But unless one of the television channels is like, hey, SEC, and they go to, say, Arkansas, and they're like, do you mind moving your game?
Yeah.
But that's likely not going to happen. So let's start with the first one. You're 2-0.
Yep.
You want to go on the road for one of these? Or you want to get a home SEC game to try and get to 1-0 right off the bat? And who do you want? Or do you want to get one of your tough ones out of the way early? For example, I'm just going to throw it at you. I think Oklahoma's operating without John Mateer, if I'm correct on this.
Probably. Now they could go get another really good quarterback out of the portal. Yeah, I don't hate the idea of go ahead and getting one of these, especially on the road out early. So if you got to go to Oklahoma in week number 3, uphill battle, say you lose that game, okay, not terrible. And then, all right, if you're coming home and playing Kentucky after that, okay, all right, get to 1-1, hopefully, something along those lines, and cruise from there. Because you're right, you don't want all those tough games back to back to back, and you don't want all the easy games back to back to back either.
Right, you don't want to run through Tennessee, Alabama, and A&M, because again, as you said, and then play Clemson.
Right. You want to, ideally.
That's not what you want your November to be.
Yeah, if you could say, okay, you're going to play Arkansas and then Clemson, like, all right, okay, that's 2 road games, which isn't easy, but all right, feel better about that than saying, all right, you're going to play Georgia and then Clemson in the last 2 weeks of the regular season.
Right. 803-404-6100. We'll come back, continue this conversation, break it down a little bit more, but text in or call in. Who do you want is your opening SEC game, and then build out from there. I'll even ask you, who would you want the week before you play Clemson? 803-404-6100. It is the halftime show. We will get into some stuff Tyler has ready and prepared in the next hour on who's coming back and who's leaving as we discuss some of the conversation here. Again, next Thursday night is 8 o'clock, right? Am I right on that?
8 o'clock,
I've got it on Twitter.
Because, again, they know they got us, right? You got the special in, like, October that it just told you who your permanent opponents and next 4 years are going to be. Now it's just going to tell you what date these games playing. And then we'll get another reveal of what time these games kick off at some point in the offseason, too. Like, again, the SEC knows they have the network for a reason. They know that we'll watch these kind of things.
Texter weighs in and says, my SEC opening game would be against Mississippi State in week 3, and then have Florida. It would be a road trip. Remember that Florida's a road trip.
That's right.
Prior to Clemson. I think you want a home game prior to Clemson, right?
Ideally, yes. Because going on the road 2 weeks in a row at the end of the season, that's a tall order. And no matter who you're playing, road in the SEC is always going to be tough. So, yeah, ideally, you'd want a home game before you go to Clemson at the end.
Okay, yeah. So, as I look at the schedule for next year, and you look at these games, I think I want to open. Prepare yourself for this with Tennessee.
Okay.
I want game 3. I want it here in Columbia. I look forward to kind of reigniting that, what was, I think, a rivalry. Tennessee is going to be a tough team, but you catch them early trying to figure out their quarterback situation.
Is Aguilar? I think Aguilar can come back, right?
I think he's out.
You think he's out?
He is a senior. I can tell you he's a senior, but you're right. What does that mean these days? I don't know. Robert doesn't even want to play along. The weather's gotten to Robert. We don't need to look forward to another disappointing season. Order of the games doesn't matter. Thank you for listening, Robert.
So Aguilar played a couple of years at JUCO, so he might actually have more eligibility left, thanks to Pavia.
So anyway, with that being said, I would want Tennessee. I think that's one of your tougher games, but you're getting them here in Columbia. Supposedly the defense, hopefully you're returning a bunch of guys. That would be a good opener for me. It knocks out one of what I'll say is Tennessee's not going to be the top of the list of tough games, but it's one of the 4, or it would be around the 4 or 5 slot is where I would have it.
Yeah, it's like, I think we can look at all 4 of the teams that are going to probably make the playoff this year. That's like tier 1. I think Tennessee's like tier 2.
And you get them early. They're trying to figure out their quarterback situation. So I would want to open with Tennessee. At that point, you're hoping you're 3-0. Now draw me up like the trip to Alabama or the trip to Texas A&M at that point.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Now, again, the SEC is not going to guarantee you any of these things, and you very well could run into having to play all 4 of those playoff teams in like a 5-week span, and that's just how it is. Like, again, we talked about like Florida's schedule these past 2 years, and the murderer that was, like, they're not going to do you any favors. It just, whatever they spit out's whatever they spit out.
Well, it feels like based on previous history, what we've seen in October, right, you're going to have a run in October of Georgia, Alabama, Texas A&M, right? That's going to be the run?
Yeah. Now, do they honor the tradition of Georgia and South Carolina playing early in September like they did for so many years, with the exception of like a couple? It says earlier, I remember when I was in school, Carolina came to Georgia in November of 2017. Yeah. It was very weird.
Jake Fromm was the quarterback.
Yeah, but for the most part, that was like the last time they played. I like
that, by the way. That was
last time
fun.
They played was, because that was really kind of the first game for both sides usually in conference play. Now, do they try and revamp that? I don't know. That is kind of more of a traditional slot for that game, especially now that it's an annual opponent. So we'll see.
I would prefer Georgia in October. Now, the game that I would want ahead of the Clemson game, you know what? Make it Kentucky.
Okay.
I like that. South Carolina's played Kentucky. I know South Carolina will kind of get up for Kentucky. Will Stein will be the head coach. I'm interested to see this because he's getting a lot of love right now as kind of a savior of Kentucky football. And I'm really interested to see if he is this dude or if he's been around. He's not a one-hit wonder, so I can't just say, oh, he worked with Bo Nix, with Dylan Gabriel and Dante Moore, and that's his name. Kentucky's not Oregon, man.
No.
And he hired, by the way, Joe Sloan, former LSU offensive coordinator, as his offensive coordinator for whatever that's worth.
Yeah, the offensive coordinator that was a big reason why they struggled on offense
why
this
Brian
year.
Kelly got fired.
So, yeah, we'll see how that goes.
803-404-6100. Send them in. Jacob says, I would like to play a tougher opponent before Clemson. That way the earlier part of the schedule will be easier. Try to get some wins and build momentum. So
Fair.
We'll get to that. And then I'll get to this other texter on a random question. We'll get to you as well. Hour 3 is coming up, and as I like to do on a Friday, I got a food question for you that I need answering for personal reasons.
It's all right here for our friends over at Tilly's Warehouse, first wine and spirit store in 5 Points in the past 20 years. They've got everything you need for a fun night, a fun weekend. If you're tailgating somewhere for, I don't know, maybe high school football, you can go down there to Tilly's Warehouse and get whatever you need to make it a fun outing nonetheless. They got G4 Tequila. They've got High Noon, Sun Cruiser, Surfsides, Cutwaters, whatever you need, they've got you covered. If you mentioned that you heard this ad on 107.5 The Game, you can also get 10% off any wine selection as well. They're locally family-owned and operated right there on Green Street behind the Salty Nut Cafe in the old Pavlov's building. They also have a Class B license, so if any bars in the 5 Points area that need to restock, they've got you covered. You can stay connected with them on Instagram and Facebook or visit their website at tillyswarehouse.com for more information. Discover why Tilly's is your new must-visit spot over in 5 Points.
It is 2 o'clock on a Friday. Good grief. Let yourself off of work and get out of this weather here in Columbia. And it's supposed to be like this all weekend long as we get you going into the weekend. Our first, not college football free weekend, but definitely a different kind of weekend as it pertains to the schedule. And we'll give you that schedule coming up here in just a little while. Somebody's weighed in already and asked if Alabama would still get into the college football playoff if they had 3 losses. Tyler doesn't think so. And so we'll see what happens with that. Should Vanderbilt get in? Does Vanderbilt deserve a chance when we learn the rankings on Sunday? Obviously, it doesn't look like they're going to get in. So we'll talk more college football. Yesterday, national signing, well, it's been National Signing Week, if you will. National Signing Day started on Wednesday, but obviously a huge day yesterday. And now it goes to show you, and you got to remember that it goes to show you that 4-8, and typically your record, not always, but typically your record in your recruiting season doesn't impact the recruits. Now, what happens is it impacts the next cycle of guys who have been watching, who are starting to narrow down the decision. So 4-8 is more likely to impact the class of 2027, the current juniors, than it is the current seniors who obviously signed. And that's why the Gamecocks were able to hold on to this class with Julian Walker, keep Landon Duckworth in the fold, and be able to land these particular players. And that obviously went a long way toward where South Carolina is at right now with a class that is small, but according to the 24/7 Sports like average grade ranking, is a top 10 class.
Yeah, so it's a class with 10 4-stars, 5 3-stars, so 15 total overall. So the numbers, again, don't quite compare to Southern Cal or Notre Dame or Ohio State or anything along, those lines, but the quality of what you got is really high, and that's something else we heard from Shane talking about on Wednesday, of focusing on quality over quantity. And look, I think we all roll our eyes at that to some degree, because there's nothing that Shane can say right now that's going to make us feel better about anything going on with this program. But he's not wrong when he talks about that based on the evaluations of these guys through the respective recruiting services. And there's never a guarantee of who's going to pan out, who's going to be great, who's not going to be great, because it all comes down to development, right? Like, okay, you've got this high-level talent on your roster. Now go out there and do something with it. And you look at a guy like Darius Gray, who, if you look at like the On3 recruiting rankings, is the headliner of this class from a rating standpoint. All right. Well, we've seen a lot of really good offensive linemen come in that haven't got developed and haven't materialized that we want them to. So you're hoping that changes and gets better with these guys. But overall, again, for what this week is and what you could have done, it was a successful week for Beamer and company when it came to the talent that you brought in and the quality of that talent that you got.
And now our attention turns to the offensive coordinator situation, to which I don't want to put words in Tyler's mouth, Captain Dave, or anybody here at this station. I think if we don't get word by the end of today, and I'm constantly refreshing the BigSpur.com and Gamecock Central, those guys, Hale and JC and John Whittle and Chris and Wes and everybody, they're on top of it.
Yes.
They are on top of it. There is nothing, at least now, that is out there. Both websites have, what I will say, semi-alluded to Kevin Decker, current Old Dominion offensive coordinator, being maybe right now the top guy.
Yes.
That's kind of, I don't want to put words in their mouth. The way that they're kind of making it sound, I'm not going to read it because it is VIP information. You can go and sign up for a membership at Gamecock Central. But Wes Mitchell does have a couple, I'm quoting it here now, but it says a couple quick Friday coaching notes. A couple quick Friday OC notes. I don't know if he shared them earlier with y'all.
Yeah, and Colton Joseph, the quarterback at Old Dominion, has announced he's going to go in the portal. Again, we still got to figure out the Sellers situation, but if he theoretically was going to go pro and you got Kevin Decker, theoretically, Colton Joseph could be on the table as a transfer quarterback that, again, knows the system. And again, we're getting really far ahead of ourselves. You got to make the hire first. But that is a name that is certainly seemingly at the top of the list right now, based on what we know right now.
And then a third name that both websites are putting out Utah offense coordinator Jason Beck.
Yes, who had the relationship with Sellers from Syracuse, Virginia, and all that kind of stuff. Possible.
So just FYI on that. I do think none of those, obviously, Old Dominion, I guess you still throw John David Baker in there from East Carolina. And Utah's Jason Beck. Utah is where were they in the most? I know we're not really discussing
They're
them.
Like 13th. They're not going to get in.
Yeah, I was going to say they're. I say that because there really is no reason not to have this wrapped up.
Sure.
Whether it's privately or publicly, however you want to define it, but by Sunday.
Ideally, yes, because if we get into this time, or we get into next week, like Monday, and we still don't have at least the reports that, hey, this is going to be happening, then I think we start to say, okay, now this is getting a little too late.
How much pressure do you, if you're Tyler Head, this head coach at the University of South Carolina, to get this done, and you want your, let's just hypothetical, okay? Hypothetical. Let's say because of the relationship with Sellers and because he's coached at a Power 5 conference in Utah, Jason Beck's your guy. And obviously, you just mentioned it, he has East Coast ties.
Yes.
What is the leeway you give him on time frame to make a decision?
Now that the early signing period is over.
Now that all that's over, what is the leeway? Like, let's say today he's meeting, again, this is all hypothetical. We don't know.
Sure.
But let's say that Shane Beamer's meeting with Jason Beck, and that is just number one guy. You got 24 hours to inform me? You got 48 hours?
Something along those lines, like this weekend's kind of where that decision needs to be made, right? And Beamer even alluded to it the other day when asked about this, like, hey, there's a lot of guys out there that are working to wrap up their respective classes where they're at. Now, again, that's another problem with the calendar where you have guys that are going to finish up their classes and then go work somewhere else, but not try and put their old team in a bad spot. It's the nature of the beast, unfortunately. But, yeah, now that, because, again, the signing period, the early one ends today. So all the signings will be done. I don't know what Utah's got, if they got some guys they're watching out for in the late hours today or whatever it may be. But, yeah, the signing window closes. If Jason Beck is going to be your guy, say, all right, 24 hours, 48 hours, but by Monday, if you're going to be our offensive coordinator, we need to be naming you by then in an ideal world, in my opinion, because then we're getting into the second week of your offseason, and who knows how many other OC spots are going to be filled by Monday because they're starting to fill up now.
Well, that's my point. If Kevin, let's just, again, in a hypothetical world, and y'all all know this just from a business standpoint, maybe you got the sales guy you want and this backup sales guy, but you're like, I need a decision by Saturday because if not, I'm going to offer it to Kevin Decker.
Yes, it's because, again, ideally, by Monday, we at least want the reports of, hey, this is who they're going to hire.
Well, I think you want the reports by Sunday.
Or the report, but by the time we come in here on Monday, maybe you don't have the press conference on Monday necessarily, but we at least need to be able to come in here knowing with almost certainty of what is going to happen when it comes to making that hire.
And for the record, because I did say this and I'm contradicting myself, if you follow me on Twitter, follow Tyler at TylerHead18, follow myself at Will, W-I-L, Gunter, G-U-N-T-E-R. I am contradicting myself a little bit here as I say all this, but time is both of the essence and not of the essence. Here's why I say it is of the essence. It's what we're discussing right now. Now you're truly on the clock. It wasn't at the beginning of the week. For all the people who are like, well, look at what was happening. How were other schools able to have head coaches by Sunday? You've been sitting on this for, 3 weeks. How was other schools able to do this? I was okay with getting through this week without an OC. It didn't affect your recruiting class at absolute at all.
Yeah,
it had zero effect, and nobody ever really wavered either. By the way,
if anything, your running back coach could have had more of an effect. The running back coach you had up until yesterday seemingly had more of an effect on your class than the OC that you don't have yet.
That's a good point.
Which is again why. I'm not saying Carson Baker was the reason why, but it could have been the final straw. Like, hey, second year row, not letting you running back. We need to do something else here, Markel. And that's why they moved on from him. So, yeah, the coach that you did have in place maybe had more of an effect than the coach that you haven't hired yet.
So, with that being said, now you get through that. Now you get your guy in because, again, to me, a perfect world, I get the offense coordinator in, and now I'm looking at all offensive guys because of the transfer portal, but guys in particular like Lenore Sellers and Nick Harbour, and going, there's your guy.
Yeah.
Here's who we're working with next year.
Well,
and also, let's not forget, running back coach is what it is. You can you hire one of those. That's not going to be the end of the world. But you also now have to figure out your exact role for Sean Elliott. I don't see Mike Furry going anywhere, but I want to get Sean Elliott's job nailed down pretty quickly as well.
And that's the tricky part of him taking over midseason, where how much progress did we see out of the offensive line? Debatable, right? But is that a case of, well, he's taking over midseason, there's only so much development that can happen? Or is it, okay, maybe this isn't the guy? And again, you're putting all your eggs in this basket for this year. It's a make-or-break season. So if you get that hire wrong, or if you keep Elliott there and he doesn't get those guys where they need to be, that's going to come back to Shane Beamer and could bite him in the butt, this time next year. So you got to be extra sure that that is the guy that you want as your offensive line coach, if that's the direction you're going. Or you say, you know what, we're going to go make another hire. We're going to put you back on tight ends, run game coordinator, and you keep doing the job you're doing, because he's done a good job with tight ends. I don't think anybody's complained about that. But you have to really say, okay, is this the guy we think is the best option for O-line coach going forward, and decide on that.
I got your tight ends coach.
Okay.
He's been here a while anyway.
Who's that?
Just give it to Luke Doty.
Well, Luke Doty being a GA next year, I feel like is almost a slam dunk,
Just
right?
go ahead and skip him to the front of the line, Tyler. Just
Well, he's got a degree in coaching.
move. I mean, that's my point. 803-404-6100. I got a food question for you. Tyler has some stats on guys returning, and we'll lead that back into what we just discussed, plus our scheduling conversation as we roll along. You're listening to the Halftime Show. Bill Gunner for Old Timey Meat Market. The weekend is here. I can't really tell you it's grilling a weekend, but it's still a weekend for delicious food. And at Old Timey Meat Market, that's exactly what you're going to find. Whether it's the incredible steaks, the pork chops, the delicious marinated chicken, or maybe you want something like oysters or shrimp, Old Timey Meat Market has you taken care of. So stop by and visit one of their 3 locations, South Congaree, St. Andrews Road in Irmo, or the Lexington store. And since it's Christmas season, if you're in the market for a brand new grill or smoker, Traeger's has an incredible line that you need to go check out. And the Lexington store is your Traeger headquarters. That's right. Dad's looking for a new smoker or grill this year. Traeger is the direction to go. So go visit Old Timey Meat Market today. The Lexington store is your Traeger headquarters. Stop by Old Timey Meat Market in one of their 3 locations and tell them Bill Gunner sent you. All right. You have heard me complain multiple times about the weather.
Yes.
Bob, I'm going to get back to your text message, too. I want to come back to that as well. I've complained multiple times about the weather, which leads me to now, it's Friday night. We have college football on. Some interesting games tonight. By the way, you mentioned it. North Texas and Tulane, or I think you or Brian Edwards mentioned it's a play-in game.
Yes, it is. Winner's in.
Okay.
No doubt about that.
They're in tonight, so that'll be kind of an entertaining little game if you want to get into that tonight. Just kind of have it on.
With two coaches on their way out of those schools.
Good point.
Well.
Good point. Are they both coaching?
Yeah,
Eric Morris and John?
Yeah, they're both going to stay through whatever run their teams have.
All right. You got some college basketball. You got some hockey. You got NBA if you want to go down that path, whatever. But I'm trying to figure out a good dinner for tonight.
Okay.
Austin and I are hanging out. Austin and I, my son, he's going to play PlayStation, so I say we're not hanging out. He's going to be building a dynasty or doing something. I don't know. I'm leaning. Tyler suggested it earlier. Chili. A good chili. So I ask you out there, here in Columbia, who has the best, and I don't mean you personally. Let us know the restaurant or the store or whatever who has the best chili. Are you a huge chili guy?
I am.
Because chili, I've done a couple chili. Tyler and I, by the way, let me put us out there. Sorry if I do this without your consent. Tyler and I will gladly come in and for free. I'll do it. I've done it for free, so I'm going to assume you do it for free. Judge a chili cook-off.
I'd be fine with that. Sounds good to me.
I've done that before. It's a blast. Chili is a unique dish in that everybody has their own kind of variation on it.
Of course.
You got a particular chili that stands out? Are you a beans or no beans chili guy?
I don't mind beans. I don't want too many.
Okay.
I think I want more meat than bean in my chili. So the meat to bean ratio needs to be more pro meat than it is bean.
Are you a cheese sour cream guy?
Honestly, if it's just a straight bowl of chili, I typically will just do like the saltines or tortilla chips or something. If I'm going to make nachos with it, then yes, cheese, lettuce, all that other stuff on there. But I don't put like the cheese and sour cream in just a straight bowl of chili, if that makes sense.
All right. So what is your preferred meat? Less beans? You got a preferred
more meat, less beans. The chunks of tomato and stuff in there is fine. I could kind of take or leave the onions. That doesn't really matter too much to me. A little. It's got to be spicy enough, right? I don't want it to set my mouth on fire. I want to be able to taste the things in there, but I don't. It doesn't need to be like overly spicy. Just a little kick to it.
So send us in 803-404-6100 because you're likely deciding my dinner tonight because I'm not making a chili.
You can go to the store and buy like the ones you pop in the microwave. Those are actually like, I've run into a lot of success with those too. That's not a bad option.
One of my buddies, David, weighs in and says Wendy's. He just goes with Wendy's.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Send it in. What do you got? What do you got for your chili? Is there a restaurant? Is there a store? Barry goes with Lizard Sticket. All right, so send that in, and let's figure out who in this town has the absolute best chili so that Bill Gunner can have dinner tonight because really, at the end of the day, despite all this discussion, that's what matters the most.
Absolutely.
There you go.
Yep.
All right. We've been discussing a lot of different things here. By the way, two of y'all, Steven and another texter, go with sliced jalapenos, sour cream, and cheese.
Okay.
And chili.
I get it. Maybe for nachos, but just again, I kind of like the bowl by itself.
Okay. We've been discussing today a lot about the signing day. Those 15 players, now you start to wonder, okay, of those 15, who comes in and who maybe really makes a difference. Transfer portal, we'll have a lot of discussion about that in January when that really opens up. Today we've discussed a little bit about the fact that next Thursday night we get the schedule for South Carolina, and I do think that's important on when you get teams. Now remember, part of that schedule, Tyler, and you pointed it out, there's only one bye week next year.
That's right.
There's only one bye week, so you're going to play 9 straight conference games, and you could play 6 of them and then get a bye week and then finish off 3 in Clemson.
Yeah, possibly.
I mean,
not going to be easy.
So, but you've done some study. You've got the numbers on, I believe, what you're confident is who is back and who is not?
Yes. And now, again, I think we're finally filtering out the COVID year guys. And, Beamer mentioned the other week that Doty and Bradley Dunn were the only guys left from the 2020 team that are obviously finishing up their career, have finished up their careers now with the games these last couple weeks. So in the quarterback room, you're losing Luke Doty, done. Boom, you lose one there. Now you do supplement that with Landon Duckworth, so your number of scholarship quarterbacks stays the same for now. Again, if Sellers decides to go pro, that obviously changes that. You lose one there. Running back, you lose Faison and Oscar Adaway and Bradley Dunn. I know he got added to scholarship later, but it wasn't as much of a factor in actually seeing the field during most games. And now, and Beamer alluded to this the other day as well, your only 3 scholarship running backs are Matthew Fuller, Jawarn Howell, and Isaiah Gustav. Like, you could realistically be looking at like 3 running backs you need out of the portal just to bolster that room a little bit, because you are really, really thin there as of right now. So that's definitely an area of concern when it comes to the portal. Receiver, you only lose Jared Brown. From an eligibility standpoint, again, Harbor could go pro, and I'm not counting for guys that may transfer out because that's impossible to predict as of right now. At tight end, you lose Jordan Dingle, and I'm looking. So Gamecock Central did finally update their scholarship board. They took Brady Hunt off, so he only played 3 games in 2021, so I wasn't sure, but it does look like he's out of eligibility too. You already lost Michael Smith midseason.
Yeah, that would hurt. That one hurts more than people realize.
So you've lost 3 tight ends. You added 1 via the high school ranks, so another area you could be looking at in terms of adding in the portal.
I just don't think he's going to be ready. Caden Ramsey's the potential to be a really good prospect. So you just mentioned you're losing Dingle.
Losing Hunt. You already lost Smith. That's 3 tight ends that you lose.
Who have you got left?
You have got Mo Brown, Mike Tyler, and Ramsey, the freshman, coming in.
You got to get 2 tight ends.
I
think you got 2 veteran tight ends, yeah.
And to wrap up the offense, and I wasn't sure about this, but they have him still on here. Nolan Hay only played 4 games, so it appears he was able to take a red shirt and have an extra year of eligibility. You lose Rodney Newsom, and obviously Nick Sharp is already going to the portal. So you lose 2 scholarship offensive linemen, and then, one of them portal, one of them eligibility. And Beamer always said you're obviously going to be looking to add there in the portal as well. So there's your offensive look at who definitely can't come back.
What will be interesting is what you said you couldn't address. What do you maintain and or lose at the receiver position?
It's a good question.
That's going to be the interesting one to me, because I do think you have some really quality players there.
You have 10 receivers on scholarship, counting Sequel Patterson coming in.
And and it's a matter of who wants to step up and kind of be the other 2 guys to go along with Nick Harbor. Nick Harbor this year, did he live up to 5-star status? Probably not. But I'm going to tell you, he lived up to being a big-time recruit this year.
Oh, this was by far his best season overall.
Yeah, he's developed.
We finally did see those explosive plays that we've been clamoring for the past couple of years. Is it the...
And you felt like he did that, by the way, what you just said. You felt like he did that while still being handcuffed by Mike Shula.
Yes. So theoretically, if somebody else calling plays, maybe that goes differently. He didn't, didn't get 1,000 yards, right? And I think when you look at like the top level receivers in college football, you think, okay, who can get to 1,000 yards, maybe have 10, 11 touchdowns. Didn't quite get there, but did have, there was no doubt he was the best receiver you had this year.
And he was becoming the most consistent, which was kind of crazy. Getting him back with another year under Mike Furry, and then to see what happens with Jaden Sellers.
Yep.
Brian Rowe, Malik Clark is a bigger, more physical wide receiver. Donovan Murph is a guy. I know they love Donovan Murph. Murph didn't enroll until the summer last year, so in terms
he still got on the field despite only being here for a short period of time, which tells you a lot of what his upside is.
Now Mazio Bennett's another guy that goes in the fold of kind of like Josiah Thompson and maybe even to an extent Lenore Sellers. Like, what did you do in the offseason?
Yeah, because Brian Rowe passed him by. Quickly. And it's like, okay, is that a case where you look in the mirror and say, okay, here's what I need to do to get better? Or you look at it and say, you know what? I don't see myself getting on the field much here. Let me go somewhere else. I'm not forecasting that, but those are real things that happen when, again, an underclassman passes you by at the slots position.
803-404-6100. We'll come back and we'll look at the defensive side of things. Several of y'all weighing in on the chili discussion. Trent goes with Wendy's. So,
okay,
looks like in terms of fast food, Wendy's is a must. Robert goes with Fritos on top of chili is a must.
Are good. That's very good as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Miss LaDonna goes, no name deli downtown is okay, but the best is at my house. Well, yeah, I got to eliminate.
Was she inviting you over?
I'm not sure. Yeah. I'm not sure what just happened. She does say she'll bring y'all. Kids. She'll bring us some chili.
Hey kids, we got dinner plans at Miss LaDonna's house.
Yeah, she does say she'll bring us some chili. Yeah, chili's a fun thing to make. I'm just probably going to be too lazy tonight to make it. And another texter says, stop by the Publix deli. Their chili at their soup bar is awesome, and they'll even sell you a bag of it. So, okay.
You got options.
All right. And Thomas goes with, other than homemade chili, the best is at Carolina Ale House, and they'll sell a large barrel to go, and he gives a vote for Wendy's, even with the fast food.
Well, we're going to put all the hats on the table, and you can decide later.
You'll find out on Monday. 803-404-6100. We'll come back. Tyler will break down what's returning on the defense, and we'll discuss that. You're listening to The Halftime Show. And Texter weighs in and says, in regards to offensive coordinator, a prospect possibility is Rick Bowie, Western Kentucky OC, number 1 offense in the nation. I hadn't heard his name.
It doesn't mean he wants to come here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
There's a difference between like wish list and actual like, okay, this guy's like trending towards coming here. Because again, there's 1,000 OC positions open, so I don't know how he views, South Carolina.
Right.
Because I'm sure if he's got the number 1 offense, I'm sure he's getting a lot of offers.
Yeah. Well, he's not a name that has popped up either.
Yeah,
so I don't have him. The 3 that we've mentioned, or at least the 3, and I really should throw the 4th in there, is Brad Glenn at Cincinnati, because his name, but he has not gained.
That seems to have cooled off a little bit.
I was going to say, he all of a sudden has not gained the traction that I kind of thought he would.
But the ODU guy,
Kevin
Decker, their names all sound familiar.
Yeah, Jason
Decker,
David,
Beck, and John David Baker have been kind of the more consistent 3 names we've heard.
Yep. So we'll continue to monitor that. 803-404-6100. Back to let's go out to the phone lines. John wants to weigh in on the offense coordinator. John, how you doing? What's on your mind?
Hey, fellas, thank you much for allowing me to speak my piece here. As important as this OC hire is, I seem to think that the offensive line coach is more important at this stage. And let me back this up, because I'm going to go back to when Spencer was here. He was running for his life the entire time he was here. And Lenore has been doing the same thing. I don't care how good your offensive coordinator is, if you can't stay off your back to throw the ball or run the ball, where are we going with this? You know what I mean? And I know we can't get an offensive line coach before we get the OC, but as far as the value goes, don't you think that the offensive line coach is probably more important at this stage of the game? I just want to throw that out there, because if you look at it, all the sacks we've given up the past 2 years, and when Spencer was here, the O-line is really our problem.
Yeah, you're right. Thank you for the phone call, John. I know what you're going. I haven't thought about it that way because of this. There's 2 things that are going to happen with the offensive line coach. This is kind of my guess, but at the same time, this is kind of what I've been told. There's 2 ways this is going to go. Either it's going to remain Sean Elliott, or the new offensive coordinator is going to pick his offensive line coach.
Yeah, that's very likely.
Like that, and so I agree with you on getting the offensive line coach being imperative. And South Carolina obviously needs a good offensive line coach. And I was going to read this, and Tyler, I don't know what you can kind of remember, but I'll go back. I believe it was Bob on the text line earlier. Yeah, and said, guys, didn't Sean Elliott do a terrific job with the line under Spurrier? I don't know if I'd say terrific, but
I would say you've talked about this before. I wasn't here, and again, I watched Carolina football back then, but I was not looking at it through a microscope like a lot of you were. You also had really good running backs then that may have masked some inefficiencies on that line. So maybe there's just a little too much credit given for how good that line was when maybe it was more of the backs that you had. Again, I'm not saying that with a definitive yes or no, but there seems to be that sentiment with a lot of people in regards to his first time around as the O-line coach.
Well, and I want to say this, too. The offensive line has not been good. I'm not, and this is not a defense of the offensive line in any way. The texter Donnie weighs in on the strength and conditioning coach. This is not a defense of the offensive line or the offensive line coaching in any way, shape, or form. I said this earlier this year, and a bunch of people on the text line kind of went after me a little bit. I think, and I don't know what we think now after 12 games, early on with Attaway and Faison, your running backs didn't help them.
Yeah.
Like, you might be right. See, so that's the thing. We go back, and if you go back and rewatch a lot of those games with Marcus Lattimore, he made a guy miss in the backfield. You know, it wasn't like he just ran up to the line and there was a clear hole for him to go bursting through. Were they better under Sean Elliott? It's with Steve Spurrier. Yeah. No, they also had A.J. Cannon, Brandon Shell, and T.J. Johnson, and they had some high quality linemen. But I think they've got good offensive linemen now. I think they've been extremely undercoached. Not, they've been poorly coached. I'm talking extremely undercoached.
Yeah.
How Josiah Thompson goes from being a freshman All-American to looking like he couldn't play at the high school level this year, and he was bad. I mean, let me be clear about that. Josiah Thompson this year went from being a serviceable freshman, true freshman, Tyler, to really should have not being on the field.
Yeah.
For certain plays this game where he got blistered.
He got bullied. There were multiple times where he just got completely, put on his butt, which obviously you don't want to see. So yeah, I think that was the really kind of the nail in the coffin for Lonnie Teasley was, again, this guy that was supposed to take a big step forward in year number 2, did the complete opposite and regressed. And again, Teasley could recruit like nobody's business, and they brought in a lot of good offensive line talent. He certainly played his role in bringing in guys like Darius Gray, too, that ended up staying despite Teasley, being moved on from. But for whatever reason, when they get here, get on the field, go through spring and summer and all that kind of stuff, they take steps back. You haven't had any of those offensive linemen that you've gotten out of high school your best offensive linemen the past couple of years have come out of the portal, right? You haven't had any guys from the high school ranks that have lived up to their potential through development and all that kind of stuff. So that's clearly a problem. And yes, that is a very important hire to make. But again, you can go to it from the standpoint of you hire your OC. They may have an offensive line coach they want to bring with them or somebody that they like that they want to go out there and hire. So that may fall in line second behind hiring your offensive coordinator. So I'm more concerned about the OC coach right now or the offensive coordinator now, then I'll get to the offensive line coach.
Well, again, the way I see it playing out, and KT weighs in with me on the text line and says, I'm with you. The new OC will likely bring his offensive coordinator. I don't think the option, I feel like it's either Sean Elliott, which I'm fine with, or, and again, I'm just going to use Kevin Decker or Jason Beck. They're gonna now Jason Beck at Utah, maybe getting his offensive line coach might be a lot different, whereas the offensive line coach at Old Dominion is like, stay here or go to the SEC.
Yeah, get a bigger payday.
Yeah, that's an easy decision. Yeah. But then I would say that if it's Jason Beck, then it's probably Sean Elliott. Now you're hiring a tight ends coach. What do you think about this text? Because I don't agree with it completely. I agree with it some, but I'm narrowing it down to the running backs when I say that they're not in position. Chuck weighs in and says, Bill, at the end of the day, the skill position players are in place. It's about the lines of scrimmage. He said if Carolina's offensive line play was 50% better than what it was this year, and if the D-line play is 50% better, meaning no run stops to get it in third and long, the schedule, we could have been 9-3 easily. I don't know if I like Matthew Fuller, and I like Jarwan Howe, and I think they're upgrades over Rasul Faison and Oscar Attaway. I'm not willing to anoint them, though, as saviors of the offense as the running back group. Like, I think South Carolina lacked severely. And again, you mentioned it with Marquell Blackwell. Shane Beamer's done a ton of good at South Carolina. They've recruited offensive linemen like I've never seen at the University of South Carolina. Quite frankly, they've landed quarterbacks like I haven't seen. This year last year, and freshmen this year, they've landed receivers like I haven't seen. Michael Smith was a top 100 prospect. They've landed tight ends.
Yep.
The running back situation, I mean, you go back a couple years ago, we're like, Carry-on Joyner.
Sure.
You play running back.
Yeah.
It is almost impossible how they've bungled that situation.
Well, and they've had to rely on the portal, and they're going to have to again because you have 3 scholarship running backs as of right now. You're going to have to go portal shopping and get hopefully 2 or 3 in the offseason to bolster that room. At 2 at the very least, maybe 3. We'll see. But I think last year showed you what the best case scenario is with Rocket Sanders, because, again, very capable running back, and he was your bell cow back. There was no denying that. Yeah, Oscar Attaway relieved him, but he was your number one, got 75, 80% of the carries, whatever it may be. There's nobody on this roster this year inside that same realm at running back. Can you go out there and land somebody like that in the portal? Maybe. You hope so. That's not a guarantee. It's not a slam dunk. But in a year where you know you're going to be down to 3 scholarship running backs, it's inexcusable that you couldn't land at least one out of the high school ranks.
And the thing is I'm not looking at it as a one-year thing. They've landed Matthew Fuller. Is that it?
They had DJ Braswell a couple years ago that left, obviously. But, yeah, you haven't really gotten any,
And you haven't. It doesn't feel like you've been close, by the way.
No, you haven't gotten any like, okay, this guy can come in and be the guy right out of the jump. Again, we've seen good things out of Fuller, but I don't know if you're saying, all right, well, that guy's going to get all the carries next year. Like, I don't know if you're there with him. You could develop him, maybe. You hope so, but that's not a slam dunk guarantee.
As we sit here today, I will say at the running back position, as we sit here on December the 5th, I do feel better. But I and don't take this the wrong way, because I'm not saying that, again, that they're going to be able to carry the load. I do feel like you've slightly upgraded your running back position with Fuller and Howe against Attaway and Faison. But in an ideal world, yeah, you go into that portal and you find something more the equivalent of Rocket Sanders.
And again, just because you want it doesn't mean you're going to get it. There's a reason why DeCarrion Joyner had to play running back 2 years ago, because you couldn't land enough bodies in the portal.
Hey, buddy.
So there you go.
Get the NIL money together.
You better hope so.
You better. Let me tell you something. Get your NIL packages together. 803-404-6100. We'll wrap it up when we come back. Just to clarify, we're talking about running backs in the Shane Beamer era, 2021 after.
Yes.
A couple of y'all hit me up. Somebody was like Rico Dowdle. Well, Dowdle was, I think, 10 years ago in 2016 because I remember interviewing him at the Hilton after his visit. That was a Bobby Bentley get. It was a Muschamp coach team. That was a Bobby Bentley get. And then Marshawn Lloyd was another Will Muschamp get as well. Texter says, so the kid that committed to us from Florida State decommitted. Yeah, went back to Florida State.
Yeah.
I don't like doing it because it comes across as sour grapes. I didn't buy into Amari Thomas. Like, I just thought it was another dude that they landed that would just come in and kind of not make it here. And he might go, I hope for the kid. I hope I'm wrong because I've never pulled any. The kid did nothing to me. But I wasn't impressed with that pickup, if you will.
Sure.
Yeah.
We're talking about in the Beamer era, and more specifically, guys that his team recruited, not guys that inherited, stuff like that. So yeah, and again, it's a 5-year window. It's small, but there's.
But you normally land one a class.
You typically, yes, and again, especially in a year like this where you're going to be down to 3. It's like if there was ever a time to land anybody, just for depth, for crying out loud, this would be the year, and it didn't happen.
A couple of things here before we wrap up the program. Number one, South Carolina Gamecocks Online has just put out a tweet. Jack retweeted it, and then I retweeted it. Construction beginning on Williams-Brice Stadium, the Reimagination Project. If you go by there, I was by there. I had to drive by there today. I was over in that area. Yeah, they have kind of pardoned off the Floyd building. I don't think that's coming down this year. I have seen the stuff for the suites and what they're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
It looks beautiful. You're asking a lot of money. I mean, we tie everything in, Tyler, and we talked about this.
Sure.
It all looks beautiful, and that stadium is going to be absolutely first class for the fan base. I know they're in the process now of tearing down the what do you want to call it? The tower, the
walkway.
Well, the outside,
the ramp. Yeah.
Ramp. Thank you. Good grief, Gunner.
Yeah.
That's over there where the team runs out, and they're going to replace that with an area for board of trustees and some higher up members, kind of get them out of the way and put them over there. Stadium by 2027 is going to look gorgeous, but it goes back to something we talked about winning and asking for money.
Let's think.
And it goes hand in hand right now.
You couldn't have had a worse time to go 4-8.
It's a good point.
Because again, your season tickets, those suites, that's not going to be cheap. And you're going to have a harder time telling people, hey, I know last year was bad. Pay more money for next season if you want to see this team play in person. It's a tough ask.
Number 2, we didn't get to this, but let's put this on the list for next week and see if we can pull the clip from Shane Beamer from Wednesday, because Shane mentioned SEC schools only having 85 scholarships.
Yep.
That has now been changed. The SEC has now voted to go to 105 scholarships in college football. Now, I'm reading this from Ross Dellinger, and I've not had time to read the entire thing, Tyler. I know the initial kind of proposal was you can go to 105, but you couldn't have walk-ons.
Right.
Do you know, I'm going to read on this weekend, and we want to get into this because if it goes to 105, in my opinion, it does change how you recruit some and what you do with taking players.
It does, and I remember reading about this over the summer. It was being talked about. I can't, off the top of my head, remember the specifics. So we can dive into that more next week.
Okay. But according to Ross Dellinger of Yahoo Sports, SEC presidents have voted to increase the number of maximum scholarships available to football rosters from 85 to 105. It says as part of the House settlement, schools are permitted to increase. So again, schools don't have to go to 105.
Right, but you have the option.
You have the ability to do that as well. There was one other tweet that popped up here that I was going to get to that I wanted to entertain you with right before. Oh, here it was. Did you ever get into Chad Powers?
I did. I watched the first 2 episodes.
Okay, you're still way behind. See, you got to watch the final one, and then you got to give me so if you have time this weekend.
I'll try and pick.
By the way, I watched Stranger Things, the 2nd episode last night.
Okay.
I feel like it's building to something that people are alluding to, but I have a hard time believing it's going to happen.
Okay, sure.
But according to Barstool Sports, Chad Powers has deservedly been renewed for a second season.
Okay, cool.
Thanks to Glenn Powell and Perry Matfield. Now, if that's the case, again, I want you to watch it, and then we need to have a segment discussion on that.
I'll try and get that in.
Also next week, Die Hard, because I did finally watch that.
I'm still trying to convince my wife to watch it.
Die
She
Hard?
hasn't seen it yet.
Good movie, actually.
Yeah, we almost watched it last night. Maybe that'll be our Christmas movie for today.
Okay, all right. Well, all right, everybody. We've made it through the week. Congratulations to you. Unfortunately, crummy weather. But, Tyler, enjoy a Saturday off, buddy.
Well, still football. But
well, no, you don't have to be
back
anywhere
and
to do a
relax.
pregame show.
That's right. Very true.
Captain Dave, enjoy a Saturday off. We'll see y'all Monday.